Aloha, everybody, and welcome back to part 6 of Sonic Boom Fire and Ice for the Nintendo 3DS. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, it just occurs to me that this is probably going to be the last DS/3DS playthrough I ever do for the channel. And, thank God for that. Thank God for that. Oh my god, because, you know, over the last few years, I have been recording a lot of DS, 3DS games for my Mega Man and Sonic retrospectives. I've done Mega Man ZX, I've done Mega Man ZX Advent, Sonic Rush, Rush Adventure, Colors DS, Generations 3DS, Lost World 3DS, Shattered Crystal, Fire and Ice, the Mario and Sonic Handheld Olympic Games series, Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed or All-Stars Racing for the DS. You know, I've been doing a lot of the handheld versions of these games for so long, and I had a particular setup when I was recording handheld games for this channel. Like, I actually had to order a 3DS with a capture device built into the bottom. So they slap this little thing onto the bottom, you put a USB cord into it, and then you project the image onto your laptop so I can record it with screen capture. But that's not enough, because you'll only get the visuals, you won't get the audio. So I had to get a sort of splitter cable in order to have the game audio in my headphones and also go into the laptop so that I could record the audio off of the computer and make sure that it all matched up with what was happening on screen. And I don't know, maybe it was just the 3DS I had, maybe it was the headphone jack being screwy, but like, it was really, really sensitive trying to record games off of the 3DS. Like, my headphone jack needs to be like all the way in, and you can't really move it all that much. Otherwise, you're going to be hearing a lot of like audio popping, a lot of audio cutting ins and cutting outs, just like a lot of... And sometimes, worst case scenario, you'll record something and it'll be stereo for a good chunk of the recording, but then you move the cord a little bit and then it's mono, and one headphone has audio and the other headphone doesn't. And I would actually, like, be editing, you know, files in Sony Vegas, and I'd notice that, like, oh god, there's only one audio track. There should be two audio tracks. Ah, god damn it. So either I would have to mix the audio better in post in order to make it so it would go in the both headphones, or I would have to, you know, just completely redo the recording, and that happened quite a bit. Oh my god, that happened quite a bit. And for some reason, whenever I record footage of 3DS, DS games, the screen capture I use always makes the quality as best as it can possibly be, but it's also, like, the hugest file size. So, like, sometimes just one simple recording of, like, 30 minutes of gameplay with a 3DS playthrough, just 30 minutes of gameplay, would be, like, I don't know, 12 gigs of memory. And when you're recording a game that's like 6 hours long, that's a lot of gigs that just take up space. And that's why when I did my Clement Remembers Final Fantasy series, I didn't record Final Fantasy III off of the DS, but instead off of the PSP, because it was much smaller size to record it off the PSP, and the video quality was still really, really good, and oh my god. Basically, all I'm saying is that I'm really happy this is the last 3DS Sonic game I'm going to be recording, because it's never been that fun recording off of this handheld, and the Sonic retrospective is almost done, and I'm done with the DS, 3DS era of Sonic and Mega Man, and I'm so happy.
This little guy is definitely protecting these fissures. Why is it so important that they stay open?
And why are these things popping up like toadstools on Mushroom Hill in the first place?
Huh? Still a mystery.
As if he had a chance.
think his chances just got a little better.
I can't believe they referenced Mushroom Hill. Does that even exist in this continuity? Really? You know, it's weird. Knuckles still comes from Angel Island. The TV show actually references the fact that Knuckles comes from Angel Island. So I guess Mushroom Hill is also part of Angel Island? Is Angel Island in the Sonic Boom universe exactly like Angel Island is in the main continuity? In that case, is it a floating continent? Is there actually a Master Emerald? Knuckles has never referenced the Master Emerald at any point in the Sonic Boom cartoon, so I don't know! But either way, folks, we have another boss fight. D-Fekt, using his magnetic abilities, has created this tar monster, and it's not that bad, not that hard. Basically, whenever he shoots down a whole bunch of tar, you want to make sure you dodge out of the way. And he has such a slow wind-up whenever he's going to slam onto the ground in order to hurt you, because it does this little claw thing where he opens it up, closes it, opens it up, closes it. And it's like, okay, he's clearly going to hit down, so that's the only time you know to move. So it's not like very split-second, like, oh man, is he going to drop right away? He's not going to drop right away. You know when he's going to drop. It's pretty slow. And then he just creates this tar pathway where you have to keep homing attacking all the skulls, all the bone fragments, and just homing attack D-Fekt when he comes up to you. But now we're in the second phase of the fight where we're taking control of Tails. Once again, the game automatically switches characters on you. I have no control over that. And wind turbines show up out of nowhere. He starts flooding the place with a whole bunch of tar, and you have to dodge the bubbles that he blows in order to get through this. And it's actually harder to play on the 3DS than it is from this capture footage. Like, the capture footage is like 1-to-1, where it's just showing you, like, complete transition, what goes from the bottom screen to the top screen, and it looks fine. But when you're actually having the game play on the 3DS, there is a big difference of space between the top and bottom screens, you know? And sometimes that can actually trip me up, and I actually do have trouble with this boss fight sometimes because it feels like the bubble gets to the top screen a lot faster, or it reaches farther than I think it's going to reach because of the space between the screens. So when you're watching this Let's Play, it looks seamless, it looks fine, because it really is just going from bottom to top. But again, when you're playing it on the handheld, when your eyes are focusing on the entire 3DS, it's just kind of weird, because it's just, there's a little bit of a gap, and it just automatically goes past that gap, so you're kind of, whoa, your eyes don't really focus on that all that much. But, you know, you just fly in between the bubbles, you go and make sure that you go to the other turbine, if there is a turbine, and you just homing attack the boss when he gets tired, and that's about it. That's about it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, keep running, D-Fekt. Keep running. Now we got ourselves another tunnel level.
I can't wait!
I can, Sonic. I can wait. So yeah, Fire and Ice is still a really good game. I still very much stick by it, and I still say that, like, if you have to get one Sonic Boom game, make sure it's Fire and Ice, because this is definitely one of the best Sonic Boom games. It's one of the better games on the 3DS handheld, if I'm going to be honest. I think this game is way better than Lost World 3DS. I think this game is... yeah, it's about as good as Generations 3DS. I know a lot of people don't like Generations 3DS because it's not as good as the console version, but, you know, I think the handheld 3DS still has a lot of fun nostalgia. I think it has some pretty good boss fights with, like, the Bio Lizard and the Egg Emperor, and some of the music remixes, the fucking Big Arm theme. Oh my god, the Big Arm theme is so good. But, yeah, it has some levels that aren't the greatest thing in the world, but, Fire and Ice is about as good as Generations 3DS. I don't know which one I would prefer playing. they're about the same, you know. So I still definitely recommend this game, but I will say that it still has, you know, this repetitious nature, and it's hard when you're doing a Let's Play, because it's like, this is not going to be the last tunnel level, and there's certainly going to be more tunnel levels, and I've just done a whole bunch of tunnel levels through Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal that I don't really have anything to say. They never introduced new elements between worlds. It's not like they introduced a new enemy type who's chasing you, or a new thing that attacks you during these tunnels. Like, there's nothing new. It's just, again, whenever you're in a fire cave, turn to ice so you can create the ice bridges. When you're in the ice cave, turn to fire so you can melt and destroy the icicles as you're blasting through. And just follow the trail of rings, dodge the generators. The one element I haven't really talked about is that they do have the ring chain stuff in these tunnels that they don't give you ragnium when you successfully do them. They give you just straight up rings. So they're different from how they are in regular levels. You don't get ragnium for hitting the ring chains, you get rings. So if you're trying to get 100% completion, you do need to get them. They are not optional.
This time I'm going to finally humiliate you!
We'll see about that, Eggman. We'll see about that. Once again, didn't push a button. As soon as you reach that space, Eggman just automatically grabs you and the race begins proper. Every time you complete one of these races, you can always retry the level, but you're not going to be retrying it as Sonic. If you try to retry any of these stages, you will have to pick from one of the multiplayer robots that you unlock along the journey. So you can be Sonic Bot, you can be Burn Bot, or you can be Tails, Knuckles, or Amy Bot if you bought them at the Thunder Island map with all the Ragnium you're collecting. But it's only during the initial playthrough, it's only during the initial conquest that you're actually going to be playing as just standard Sonic. You don't get the option to be regular Sonic if you come back to these levels, so that's kind of interesting, kind of weird. Because, like, the Sonic Bot is this big, hefty mech, right? And it's way bigger than Sonic is. And it might kind of control and feel exactly like Sonic does. Then again, I haven't really used the Sonic Bot in quite a while, but it's peculiar, it's peculiar. You would think the bots would be saved purely for the multiplayer, but no, you can play the bots in single player whenever you come back to these spaces and try to play them all over again. I got all 200 rings. Again, the only reason you're collecting these rings, 100% completion. You'll get a bit of Ragnium for doing it, which there are an infinite amount of Ragnium you can get through the levels just by replaying them over and over again. And they don't get you extra lives or anything, because Sonic Boom Fire and Ice doesn't have extra lives. So it's not like I'm going to be increasing my chances of survival by collecting them. They're just there, you know. Like, again, it's just like every other traditional Sonic game. You only need one ring in order to survive an attack. If you have no rings, you die. If you have one ring, well, you just get knocked back, and then you can pick up that ring again and survive another attack, and survive another attack. So, rings feel kind of weird in Fire and Ice. In Shattered Crystal, they were used to unlock Quincy tokens, you know? They wanted you to collect a certain amount of rings and reach the goal so that they would give you a Quincy token so that you could buy a figurine. But that isn't actually a thing in Fire and Ice. You get Ragnium for some of these spin-off levels, but when you're in the actual regular stages, they don't actually give you Ragnium or a completion check for having a certain amount of rings. So you can collect like 300, 400, 500, and you're not getting anything for holding onto those rings, which is kind of weird, you know? You'd want at least a Quincy token or extra lives, but this game doesn't have lives, this game doesn't have Quincy tokens, and it doesn't really have challenges related to the rings, so yeah.
We'll save you, Sonic!
Save him? I was bringing him back, you nincompoop! Let go! For a bunch of runners, you guys weigh a ton!
I know we're lost, but another island is in serious trouble. I think closing all these fissures here is backing everything up somewhere else. We need to find our way out of here and fix those fissures fast.
Fast is what I do best.
I only bring up how many rings you collect and how you don't really get anything for collecting those rings because maybe this game would have benefited with a live system, like you get lives for collecting 100 rings. You find one-up boxes in the stage, and you can potentially get game overs so that these lives feel more valuable. But then that always goes back into the debate between gamers of whether lives are outdated, you know? Some people do not like it the way old school games are, where you go through a level, you keep dying and dying, then you eventually die at the very end when you're fighting the boss, and you have to redo the entire stage all over again. It feels like an unnecessary punishment in this day and age. But at the same time, I think a game like Sonic Mania, which came out after Fire and Ice, which had a live system, you know, you collect rings, you get lives. You explore the level, and you check out all of its nooks and crannies, and you could find one-up boxes and stuff that would give you more time to survive in some of the harder encounters down the road. And I actually enjoy that, you know? I'm fine with either system, but I don't absolutely hate the idea of a live system. Sometimes I feel like a live system can be a nice reward for exploration and collecting all those rings and not taking damage, and I always feel like you get benefits from those kinds of implementations, and I certainly like them in Mega Man games, but, you know, that debate's gonna keep going on till the end of time. I'm sure the comments section will love to discuss whether lives are outdated, but, anyhow, folks, I'll see you in part 7. Till then.